Going everybody, another really quick video here. I want to talk about anger, and thank you for those of you who checked out the video yesterday, me just saying hi. For sure gonna remember all of those people that it's been like, I don't know, over a year since my last video, so it's really privileged that there's people out there who are still checking in. So I wanted to talk about anger. Anger, when anger arises within us, that flare up, we can be hijacked by that feeling. Whether it's being triggered by someone in particular, someone maybe makes a comment on one of our Instagram posts, someone tells us something when we meet them. It could even just be a thought of a past experience that makes us angry. The thing with anger, to remember with anger, is that there's nothing wrong with feeling angry. Brings to mind a lyric, Rage Against the Machine lyric, where he says, anger is a gift. And I agree with that to a certain extent, depending on how you harness and channel the energy, because anger is a tremendous amount of energy. It's a strong force. One of the strongest emotional forces, I would say, at least for myself. And when anger fills you up, the immediate desired or easiest, let's say, response is you want to strike back. And that's what I believe. Again, let me preface this whole video by saying these are just my own opinions. These are my own processed, digested perspectives and opinions based on my life experience. And I'm not a professional, trained psychologist, therapist, philosopher, whatever you want to call it. So these are just my own opinions. And I encourage people to go out, and if you're interested in these things, to go out and study them, study what educated people have talked about. But my perspective on this, my personal perspective, is that, our anger is there. It's not a bad thing. It happens for a purpose. And it's a defensive mechanism. We feel like we're being attacked most of the time when we get angry. And the anger is this emotional fuel, this energy that is being prepared to launch an attack, right? Now, back in the day, that would have served us a lot more than it does nowadays. Let's say 1,000 years ago, when someone would insult you, or maybe more seriously, like try to attack you physically or harm one of your friends or family, anger would fill you, and it's intended for you to switch off and not think. Because back when we were living in much harder times, that moment of thinking could mean could mean life or death. Could mean that one of your family is going to get killed, one of your friends, or yourself. So these emotional surges that we feel, let's say if someone makes us angry, are intended in the way that they're happening. It's just that our world is evolving at such a fast pace that our genetics are not evolving to keep up with it. And I would argue that that's not a bad thing either, because who's to say that this state of the world, this state of society that we're experiencing right now, is what's going to survive and last? Maybe we look at all of this and we say, wow, look how advanced we are, but maybe nature is like, oh, you think this is advanced, but just wait, this isn't going to last very long. And so nature is saying, I'm not going to evolve or adapt this human species that quickly yet. I'm going to wait and see what's going to happen, because perhaps the way they are designed right now is still going to be okay. So we can snap when we're triggered. We can get this surge of anger and emotion within us, and our immediate, easiest instinctual response is to strike back, to hit back. Right now, as we all know, most of us in today's world, if you do that, it's not going to really serve you. It's going to hurt you. Let's look at what happened with Will Smith, for example. The Fresh Prince losing it, right? In front of the whole world to see. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on that, which I will make another video on. I want to talk about this whole cancel culture thing as well, because I have two sides. I have two perspectives on the topic, but for now I don't want to get too sidetracked. But when anger overwhelms us in today's world, and it is going to happen, if you're watching this video, it is going to happen again. It's inevitable. It happens to all of us. As you can see, you don't have to be, you can be a celebrity like Will Smith, and you see how enraged he got. He was filled with anger and rage. So this is something normal. It happens to all of us. And it's okay if we lose it sometimes. It's okay if we don't deal with it in the most perfect way. You don't want to be hard on yourself in the way that you deal with anger. You don't want to be too hard on yourself. You know, as long as you're not doing something really, really terrible. I mean, even what Will Smith did, like, I would say that it's great that our world and our society has these standards and is trying to maintain civility and civilization. You know, it's important for a lot of people, especially a lot of these people who are like kind of like going back to the roots kind of people of like, we've got to be in touch with our tribal instincts and hunting and all this. I think that's all great, but you cannot be ignorant to the hundreds and thousands of years of savage disease, rape, pillaging, murder, the hundreds and thousands of years of brutal living that caused human beings to go through the age of enlightenment. You can look that up and become educated and try to create civilization so that we can all enjoy our lives a lot more and enjoy all the things that we are blessed to have nowadays. Nowadays, by the standards compared to our history, we are living in paradise. Most of us who live in the Western, modern, civilized world, we are so spoiled and we don't even know it. And is it a bad thing that our standards are kind of increasing all the time and people are kind of becoming a lot more, let's say, sensitive or aware or acute to, you know, each other's feelings and respecting each other? It's not a bad thing, but, you know, that has to come in, that has to be in harmony and in balance with, and it has to be realistic as well, right? So you're going to have some elements of human society that are going to be saying that, hey, this is inappropriate, this isn't, and we're striving for this sort of like these expectations. And then there's going to be another element of society that's going to say, no, this is all ridiculous, like, you know, we should chill out, and, you know, and then both those powers are going to create some sort of a middle ground. And even though you'll constantly hear it on the news and the media that our world is so polarized and divided, I don't really see it that way. I see that there's two sides pulling, but the majority of people and the majority of our lives, we're all kind of like getting along with each other and just living, and very lucky to have everything that we have. So when anger arises, when we get inflamed with anger, we want to strike back, just like Will Smith in that moment. He just lost it, right? you cannot blame people, you cannot blame yourself too much, because as I said earlier, I believe that this is designed genetically for our own survival, because as I know from fighting, you can't think for a second in a fight. You've got to just react. If you think, even for a moment, that's when you can just lose the fight, get knocked out, get taken down, get submitted. So when it comes to primal behavior like fighting, thought is not something that really helps too much. It's going to be more of your reactions and how you've trained those reactions over time. So it's like conditioned responses, right? So this leads me to the next point, which is like conditioning yourself, right? So the way you react when you are triggered is going to be dependent on how you've conditioned yourself to react. So instinctually, we're going to be programmed to react in some way. That anger fills us, we feel inflamed, and we want to react. Just to keep this video short, because I'm going to keep my first batch of videos a little shorter and then eventually kind of go into longer ones. What's the best thing to do, obviously, when we get angry? The best thing to do is to not react immediately, right? The best thing to do is, while it's really hard to do it, but the best thing to do is just to take a few minutes and don't do anything, right? If Will Smith would have done that, for example, he would have, it would have been worked out a lot better for him. But it's really hard in that moment, right? You feel like you're just, it's like a craving. It's like this addiction. It's like such a strong instinctual drive to hit back. And like I said, I believe it's because of it's designed to help us survive. But when we get inflamed and, full of anger, like to the point where you can't think, that's where your meditative practices, your self-awareness practices, being self-conscious, conscious of yourself, conscious of your emotions, conscious of everything, experience helps as well. That's when all of that is going to come in to play, right? And based on how well you have been training yourself and working on your spiritual practices, you'll be able to see, like, are you going to be able to like take a few minutes, just kind of close your eyes, go away, put your phone down. If it's something that was on your phone that hurt you, or if it's a person that hurt you, can you walk away? Can you distance yourself? Or can you just keep quiet? Doing nothing in those moments is often the best thing. And then what I like to do, or what I like to recommend when I'm coaching, counseling people, is whatever it is that you want to do, try to put that into words, or do it, but do it somewhere else. So let's say someone is a troll and puts a negative comment on one of your photos or whatever, or let's say someone insults you, as being a dick or whatever. What you can do is all the things that you want to tell that person, go ahead and write it down, Or if you want to like reply in a comment, go ahead and write it down, but just don't send it, don't post it, don't send it to them. And it's amazing how once you've released that out of you, how it's very little left. You've like managed to unload the firearm. You've managed to unload what needed to come out. So you're kind of like hacking and tricking your body, your instinctual responses into believing that you've fired what you need to fire out. So writing it down, not sending it, it's going to be a huge help. that, along with giving yourself some time, it's going to be a really big help. And then talking to someone about it. If you have a friend, if you have family, just like talking like, oh, this person, was so annoying. They did this and this and that. Asking that person maybe first, hey, can I talk to you about something? Do you mind if I vent, for a minute? And if you don't have anyone accessible to you to do that, you can hire someone. And there's no shame in that. It's actually like totally honorable, and I have so much respect for people that actually like look after their emotional and mental health in this way. So it's worth spending $50. There's like apps now where you can talk to therapists or counselors or coaches. It's worth that money because you're gonna unload, you're gonna feel better, and I'm 100% sure you're gonna learn something in that process. And probably the greatest thing of all is you're going to wind up with an increased self-image of yourself, self-respect for yourself, self-love for yourself. In the back of your mind, or if you're a self-aware person, there'll be kind of a little bit more in your conscious realm. You're going to have a better self-image of yourself. You're going to have greater self-love, self-respect for yourself. You're going to have less self-hatred, less you're going to see yourself less as a weaker person. And all of these things are linked to having increased confidence, having, let's say, even increased success and victories in your life. Because as that saying goes, we give ourselves what we feel we deserve, right? We are ultimately, you could argue, our own judge and jury. And a lot of spiritual teachings, even religions, faiths, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, a lot of them, if you really if they're studied properly, in my opinion, a lot of them point to little signs that you are actually you are your own God, which basically means you are the one that is aware of all the sins that you're committing, all the good things that you do, all the bad things, and in the end, you're the one that's going to judge yourself. And if you feel like you're a shitty person, or a weak person, or whatever it is you think of yourself, then you're going to deliver your own verdicts and your own punishment. You're going to deliver that upon yourself. And if you feel you're a good person, a patient person, a strong person, then you're also going to deliver what you feel you deserve to yourself as well. That's why when you see people who work really hard, wake up very early in the morning, they may not even be nice, cool people. By the way, I want to make a video on being nice, because I think nice, let's say the word nice or nice people are under assault as well this last 5 to 10 years. Part of the mass confusion that's going on right now, and I would love to talk about this because I don't think I call it being polite, not being nice, and I think that the world needs people to be more polite. Unfortunately, it's become really glorified to be an asshole. This last 5 years. I wonder why, but the world is looking up more, and I can understand why people are associating being a dick with not caring or not giving an F about what other people think, but I think there's a lot of confusion in there. I think that we are going to find the right path eventually. I think we've kind of gone off path, and we're going to find that no, it is important to be polite. It is important to treat people the way you'd like to be treated. And but that's another video for another time, and I will, for sure, I would love to share my perspective on all of that. It's just my perspective. It's not right or wrong. I do believe that human civilization is a good thing. We've come out of the dark ages where we were literally raping, murdering, women today, for example, are living a life that they would never be able to live hundreds of years ago. not just women, but all types of different people with disabilities, people, I mean, the world that we have come from, human beings, we have come from brutal way of living, very hard, tough life. And we are at the point where we are today because all of that didn't work. And we move towards what did work and what is sustainable. And what does work and what is sustainable is being civilized, being respectful to each other, being polite. Yeah, I understand the argument of, this war, I would say, against being nice, which I kind of feel that going on. But hey, I would rather have someone who's being nice to me than someone who's being an asshole and a dick, So treating people the way you want to be treated, right? And then also, like, with that in mind, when you are triggered and you do get angry because of someone, it's important to understand why this person has made you angry in the first place. So the final section of this video is going to be that, well, once you have been able to, number one, take some time out, step back. Are you self-aware enough to do that and not to get locked in and triggered to punch back? Number two, unload what needs to come out, whether it's through just writing, like the response to this person. Like this person maybe like put a comment on one of your pictures and was just being a troll. Well, then write a response to them and no holds barred. Like, don't be nice, don't be polite. Just let them have it. Like, F you suck, whatever it is you want to do, just let it out. But don't send it to them, don't post it. And you're going to feel amazing. You've unloaded that beast that's within you. These are, again, just my opinions, my perspectives, okay? So take them all with a grain of salt. And so once you've done that, then I would, as part of the unloading, I would talk to someone about it. If you can, share. Say, oh, this happened to me, and, I feel really terrible. And, asking for advice is never a bad thing. Or just having someone there to listen, and understand. Especially someone who's professionally trained to do that. Those are the best people to talk to. And sometimes our family members are not. So even if you do have a lot of friends and you do have a lot of family available to you, sometimes it's better to still, hire a professional, because they're going to be more experienced in a position to actually give you some really good health. It's just the same as if you're going to see a chiropractor or someone massaging your body or a nutritionist. You want to ask someone who knows what they're talking about. Then lastly, it's going to be about understanding why this enraged you in the first place. And I guarantee you, as Jocko, the Navy SEAL Jiu-Jitsu guy, who I used to watch his videos a little bit, but I stopped, kind of lost interest in him. But he always would talk about extreme ownership, right? Which basically means owning up and not blaming someone else, but actually looking within you and why did you feel so enraged? And it is this type of practice that's going to help humans evolve, right? Because we are evolving. We are evolving. We are a lot more civilized than we were 1,000 years ago. We're a lot more spiritually aware. 1,000 years ago, there was far fewer people who were they existed. Don't get me wrong. We've got the Egyptian Empire 5,000 years ago, so there were civilizations, but it was mostly maybe elites that were most, the majority of people were peasant and poor, right? But now there's hundreds and thousands of people who are, more civilized in that position, right, of understanding. And so, as Jocko would say, try to own it. Why is it that you're getting enraged? It's probably pointing to something within yourself, some insecurities perhaps inside yourself, or some fears maybe, or something that you got to work on, perhaps, I can tell you for me, like, I'm sometimes not the quickest, wittiest person, like in person, but like I'm good, like if I take some time, and I'm good with writing, right? Whereas some people are very good in person, but they're not very good with writing. So you can see sometimes people will say, "Oh, I'd like to text you," or "I don't want to talk on the phone," because some people are better on the phone, and it's just a biological thing. Some people are better with texting and writing. Everyone's different. So it's not that, oh, phone is the best way, I'm a phone people person, or no, everyone's different. So understand who you are and what works best for you and why you get enraged. It might be, that's the important word, it might be something within yourself that you can improve. But it also can be, as Eckhart Tolle would say, someone's pain body, right? And I would say that 7 or 8 times out of 10, as high as 8 times out of 10, it's usually that. It's usually someone who's jealous of you, who's trying to distract you, someone who is got a lot of anger and pain in them. Doesn't make them a bad person. So this is an important thing to always remember, is that this person is not bad. While your anger can lead you to hate and dislike someone and judge someone and put them in a category and say, this person is no longer my friend anymore, it's important to remember that because this person has hurt you or is trying to pull you down or is trying to distract you from a path that you're on, which is probably a successful path, because it's usually people who are succeeding or have great potential to succeed that are going to be more on the receiving end of trolls and hate, right? Because misery loves company. And if you're a miserable person, because you're hurt, maybe because you're in physical pain, you might be suffering a disease, you might have issues with your family, you might have no friends, you might have just lost a relationship, you might have lost your job, you might not be doing very well financially. Your life may be difficult and may be giving you a lot of pain, and as a result, your behavior is just in a way that hurts other people, brings other people down, and you might think that, or that person might think that they're not doing anything bad. They're like, hey, I'm not doing anything bad, because they're living in a world where people are maybe busting each other's balls, Thing is, busting balls, like, I love that. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But what's important is the intention behind it. Because me and my friends, we bust each other's balls. My bandmates, whenever we would go on, play shows together or on tour, we would bust each other's balls. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's 2 different kinds of that. There's well-intended busting balls, where there's love behind it. And then there's like real vicious, bad intended busting balls, which is when you have this sourness and venom and bitterness, and that spills onto another person. As I said, Eckhart Tolle calls that the pain body, right? Someone's pain body spilling onto you. And in that moment, you feel their pain. And because you're not where they are, you're maybe at a more elevated level, you're living in a more of a in the light, even if you're in pain, even if you have also difficulty in your life, which we all do, but you are able to transcend that and process your pain better. Maybe they aren't able to. So in that moment, when there's this chemical reaction occurs of these 2 people from different worlds and different existences, you might taste some of their world, and that might be painful to you. And it is important in that moment, as I said, the final step of all of this is to examine, is this myself? Where can I improve myself? Is this person's pain? And then trying not to be judgmental, bringing compassion and love into the equation, whether it is for yourself, if you notice that, hey, there is something within myself that's not good. Maybe I am insecure. Maybe I have fear. Maybe, like with my personal uh, experiences as an example. Because I might not be so quick-witted in situations like this, there's this fear, and the fear triggers that, maybe that anger or whatever it is, the defensiveness, right? Because there's that fear that I'm maybe not good at hitting back verbally. Some people are great with verbal sparring, but they might not be good at physical sparring. And 1,000 years ago, if they even dreamed of verbally sparring, for them there would be the risk of being killed, being shot, being stabbed, right? Or getting their head smashed in by someone bigger. Now that's not acceptable anymore, so the people who are more adept to verbal sparring or bullying or being a dick or whatever you want to call it, those people have a lot more freedom now, or a lot more room to navigate. And if you're not capable or not as capable with that, space is good, distance is good, not being too hard on yourself, if you're not that good, and then go off and work on it a little bit. Like, study, how can I respond better in those situations? How can I behave better? And I've mentioned a few little tips in this video on what can help. But there are things like Toastmasters where you go up and they train you how to talk in front of people. So there's a lot of things, a lot of ways out there. But I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, the best thing is just silence, or preventing things like that occurring by talking less, right? So just to wrap up, I would say that, keep all those things in mind. Maybe it's someone else's anger, someone else's pain. And if it is, don't judge them. Don't categorize them as being bad or evil or hating them or unfriending them. Hey, look, if you want to unfriend them, go ahead. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I would 100% support that if this is someone that you need to create more boundaries and distance with. And if unfriending them or whatever it is, or talking less to them, is going to help you create the appropriate boundary for your relationship, then absolutely do it, 100%. Whatever is going to help you to strengthen yourself so that you can be a source of motivation, inspiration, energy, positivity, love, do it, because that's going to help you to share that and be a good source for your family, yourself, and your friends, right? And for the world. But yeah, don't try your best not to judge. And I'm going to wrap this video up with forgiveness. Try to forgive, even though it's difficult for you. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. It's so that you can keep your heart clean, keep your mind clear, keep your soul clear, because I believe that that's, above all, the most important thing of all, keeping your heart, your spirit clear and clean and strong. And it's not just your spirit, but it's your mind. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier, your self-image, right? Having a positive self-image of yourself is going to help you a lot more to be victorious in this world. And even little victories help us with our confidence. I'm not saying that they should, but they do, right? If you can be more elevated, more spiritual, you'll realize that you don't need much to feel powerful, confident, and great. You can bypass the material world. There's always this amazing spiritual world that it's like a little shortcut. You can bypass all of it and be at peace, be strong. But we all live in the material world, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's not a bad thing to be able to have both options available to you and to keep both of them strong. So I hope this video helps in some way, and I'm kind of just myself getting back in the saddle here of making videos, and anger is just one emotion of many. We should forgive each other. So I wanted to wrap the video up with forgiveness, even with people like Will Smith or Of course, some things are very difficult to forgive, and maybe you can't forgive some things, but I believe that most things we can, and forgiveness is going to help all of us. All right, so I hope this reaches all of you in good health, and hopefully make another video tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Adios for now.